Hey everybody, welcome back to another Flea Market Finds episode, and this is stuff that I picked on my first day, Tuesday, of the Brimfield Flea Market this fall. And this might not look like a lot of stuff right here that I'm going to go through in this video, because I'm going to do a separate video that will include the contents of 2 toolboxes and a 2-drawer Kennedy riser, machinist toolboxes, 2-drawer Kennedy riser, that I didn't end up buying the boxes. Because the Gerstner boxes he wanted quite a bit of money for, and he initially wanted to sell everything complete with the contents. But luckily I was able to convince him that it would actually serve him better if he were selling the boxes empty separately. So I bought the contents of all 3 boxes, and that was actually such a large amount of stuff that I'm going to do a separate video on that. So that'll be coming soon, so look out for that. If you're not already a subscriber, make sure you subscribe and have your notifications turned on so you'll see when I post a new video. But for now, let's just knock out the items that I got elsewhere that day. Not a heck of a lot of stuff, and I do have one item I purchased off of Facebook here that was just a lone item I'm going to add on to this. So let's reposition the camera and get going. So let's get this one Facebook item out of the way. This actually popped up on my local Facebook. Something for sale right here in town, and it's funny because I never had seen the original posting for it, and then when the guy had dropped the price on it, it popped up in my feed. So this is a coaxial indicator, and this is a Hess brand, H-E-S-S. It's probably an import because Blake is the original manufacturer of this device, and the Blake ones are always black and they're very distinctive looking. And then I guess maybe the patent ran out or they licensed it or whatever, because now you can buy these under several different brand names, and they're all imports. And the original Blakes are quite expensive, so an aftermarket import, which, you know, this thing actually feels pretty decently made. It's got what looks like a decent powder coating on the frame, or the body I should say. It works perfectly, and the only thing that it's actually even got this little retaining, this little clip right here. This is for when it's stored. It keeps this from being able to slam. But lots of times these come with several different little attachments. This one has a long hole attachment, a short dog leg, a long dog leg, and a very short dog leg. And then this actually threads in on the body. This is what keeps this thing from spinning when it's in the machine. So I guess I should back up a second and explain what this is in case somebody doesn't know. So this is used in a milling machine for finding the center of a hole. So let's use one of these 1, 2, 3 blocks I have handy here. Let's say we've got this in the vise on the milling machine, and we want to position the center line of the spindle of the milling machine directly over this hole that already exists, and we want to be able to because we want to be able to center the spindle in it. And usually it's like on a larger bore, like say you're going to bore out or over bore out a cylinder on an engine. You put this into the spindle of the machine in a collet, and then you would put in one of these fingers, and depending on, you know, the situation, use a different size or whatever. Okay, so imagine this hole is much larger and it's a deep bore. Then what you're going to do is you're going to put this on here like this, and this is going to want to spin around when the machine is started at very low speed. A lot of these get destroyed because they are like put into a CNC spindle, and then somebody hits a button and doesn't realize that the spindle was set to, you know, 5,000 RPMs, and this just whips around and destroys itself. Well, on the machine you put the spindle on very low speed, I mean really low, and this is going to want to turn like this. So now you put this stick in, and you have something to stop it. That'll, you know, you can put a mag base or whatever, and then that will allow you to read the dial. The way this works is, as that as this is spinning around the bore, okay, if this is not located directly over the center, it's going to cause this to move like this. So essentially you're going to get this kind of action on the dial, and all you do is you move your X and Y axis controls until you get minimum deflection of this needle. And when you're at minimum deflection, you're over the center of that bore. Now, if you can't get this to stop deflecting at all, all that means is that your bore is no longer perfectly round. So it's kind of a neat thing. A lot of people like these a lot better than just using an edge finder method. And then again, there's others who prefer just using an edge finder and don't like these. So it's an acquired taste. Right here is a part that's missing. This kit may not have even come with this originally. I don't know if it did and it just went missing or not. But what's usually in this spot right here is a little straight nub that has a needle point on the end. Almost like a center punch point on the end. And what that is for is that if you have a center punch mark on a piece, let's say I wanted to drill a hole in this and I had used layout lines and I put a center punch mark on here. Now I want my center line of that spindle to be directly over that center punch mark. Well, what you would do is you put that little attachment in there, the little pinpoint, you would get that so that it's in the center punch mark. And then again, you move X and Y axis so you get minimum deflection, and at that point you know that the center line of the spindle is now over the center line of the punch mark. And you take this out, you put your drill bit in, and Bob's your uncle, or your center drill. I got this for 35 bucks. I'm probably going to end up selling this for about 50 bucks. Back to the flea market. Okay, so first buy of the day, I ended up going through a guy's stuff and finding a couple of items. I found this neat pair of old goggles. They're probably for grinding or something like that. I have quite a few pairs of these. I don't know why I have such a penchant for these things. It's kind of a steampunk thing. People buy these and add like stuff onto them to make them look very like futuristic. It's like almost like the kind of fantasy stuff you see in graphic novels about future evil scientist type of stuff. Just Google steampunk and you'll see what I mean when you look at the photos. A lot of weird stuff, but these are often used by people who are into steampunk. And if they're in good shape and they're not all moldy, I usually try and get these pretty cheap. Case in point, I got this pair right here with these dividers for $6. I thought the dividers were kind of neat, but they do not appear to have a maker's name anywhere on them. They just have a couple of initials here, which is probably the owner's name, and they get a little thumb screw on the back here so you can lock them once you've taken your measurements. So let's say that this is actually a 1, 2, 3 block. We'll just put this on here like that, lock it, and then take our measurement. And sure enough, I don't know if that's going to be focusing or not, but it is actually showing that the needle is right on the 4 division mark, so it's actually pretty good. Not super resolution accuracy, but good enough. I found these 4 1, 2, 3 blocks at a guy's booth, and they're rusty as heck. And so I ended up getting these for $2 a piece. So for $2 a piece, they're definitely worth it for somebody to clean them up. And they do actually look like they all belong together. So they do not appear like they were ever finished ground. But if you just want some beater blocks to use in your vise as like standoffs or packing or whatever, these will go nice and cheap. This is kind of cool. I spotted this thing at a guy's booth who had nothing machinist related at all, and he had no idea what this was. And I was able I just said to him, hey, you want to take $3 for that? Or I think I said a couple of bucks for that, and he said, how about 3? And I said, sure. So I got this for $3, and what I believe this is I'm pretty sure this is a micrometer stand. So your frame of your micrometer would sit right in here, okay? Say this was the frame of the micrometer, it would sit right in here, And then that allows this to hold the micrometer so you have both hands free for doing measurements. So you got one hand to work the thimble of the micrometer and the other hand to put the parts in. So if like you had a tray full of parts and you were checking them all for tolerance. So I've never seen one this style before. It's got an O-ring in a groove in the base so that it doesn't want to slide around too easily. It's kind of neat. But I think that was a great find for $3. I found another pair of these safety wire tying pliers. I got this pair for $5. I typically am able to get around 20 bucks for these. So these are just marked USA. And for those of you who don't know what these pliers are for, they've got this mechanism in here so that when you push down, they'll spin. So what you do is you actually clamp the two ends of a safety wire that's been threaded through a couple of holes on a nut and bolt to keep that nut and bolt from being able to unscrew, like say in aircraft or racing applications where the high vibration might cause a critical nut or bolt to loosen up. And you put the wires through and you take the two ends of the wires and you clamp them in here, and then you do what I just did, right? And this will just spin those wires around, and then there's also cutters built into here right there, so you can cut off the excess wire. And that's what those are for $5. I found this pair of parallel clamps at a guy's booth. He didn't have any machinist tools, but these clamps were still laying there, and I got the pair of them for $5. And this one is a Starrett 161B, and this one is also a Starrett. Looks like it's it's also a 161B. So this is actually a pair. So a pair of Starrett clamps for $5. Good deal. And then another guy's booth, I ended up getting, well, compared to that, I overpaid for this. This is a no-name. It's got the case hardening finish on it, like a Starrett would have, but I do not see. Oh no, I'm sorry. It does have a name on it. It is marked. This is a Union tool, so that's a very early clamp. So I got this Union tool parallel clamp, and these two odd pieces here for $6. So I'm into these for $2 a piece. This is just a parting blade for use in your lathe, grooving or parting blade. It's Cobalt, something tool company, MR Tool Company of Detroit, Michigan. And then this is a larger one of the same thing. And this is a, it says K&I Company. I'm not familiar with that one. The idea behind these is as this edge gets dull, you just grind this back and continue to move it forward. So when they get too short, they're not any good, but these still have some life left in them. I scored this plastic lumberjack wedge for $1. It's the tip of it must have been so bashed up that somebody actually ground it or shaved it to actually make it usable again. And this is a Windsor, made in Canada. I only paid $1 for it, and they tend to get lost or damaged, so it's always a handy thing to have. These are when you're cutting down a tree and you're felling the tree. After you get the saw cut started, you can pound these in on the back side, and they will help keep the bar from getting pinched. And you can also motivate the tree into what direction you wish it would fall. And last item I'm going to include in this video is this nice little vise right here, which I almost missed completely. I was walking along and I saw an old wooden toolbox, the kind that has a wooden pole for the handle, the carpenter's type boxes, the long ones that is just kind of like a tote box. And that was sitting there, and he was probably just selling that. You know, these old boxes and stuff like that are getting popular for decoration or whatnot. But this little vise was actually screwed to the box. So somebody had mounted this little vise on the box so they'd have a little vise handy when they were toting their toolbox along. Well, I walked by it, and then all of a sudden I stopped and looked at it and realized, hey, I think that is a vise that is actually collectible, because I looked right in this area right here and I could see that there was some writing on it. And sure enough, it's actually got a a patent date on there, and it does say, I believe, H&B. So the trick is you don't really even notice this lettering very much unless you open the thing up all the way. So I asked the guy if he'd be interested in selling the vise, and I said, I'm not interested in the box. He actually valued the box more than the vise, and for me it was exactly the opposite. So it worked out for both of us. So I was able to score this vise for 10 bucks, and it says a patent date of, can't quite make it out, but it looks like June 15th, 1885, and then I think it says H&B. So this little H&B vise is actually pretty rare, and 3 of them have sold on eBay over the past 3 months. Cheapest one sold for like 50 bucks, another one sold for 85, and one even sold for $99.99. The bad news about this one is, if you didn't already notice it, right here, one of these 2 ears that where the screw holes are is snapped off. It's really an old, it's really an old brake. You can tell just by how rusty and oxidized this is, that this happened a long time ago, and somebody just continued to use it the way it was, with just the 2 screws mounting it. But from a collectability standpoint, that is going to hurt the value. So I don't know. We'll throw it on eBay and see what happens, but I'm only into it for 10 bucks. So it is what it is. Alright guys, we're going to call this video quits right here, and I'm going to save the contents of those 3 boxes for a separate video. And that's going to be all machinist stuff. So you guys who really like machinist tools are going to really dig that one. So until next time, take care.